Hey everybody, hope you've been enjoying your summer. Mine has been great, just very busy, and I've been looking forward to making another video, and I finally got around to doing it, so here we are. And today I wanted to talk about another great attribute from the Finsweet Attribute Library. Today we're going to be focusing on the Load More attribute. So this is the attribute that's going to allow you to target your collection list of items and sort of apply that pagination effect where you have this seamless loading of more items beneath your CMS collection. And it's going to be really smooth and seamless. You'll be able to add a button and just click load more and have everything populate and load as the user scrolls down. And I'll show you some little bonuses of how to display the current amount of CMS items in your collection and even the amount that are currently visible on the page. And then a few little animation tricks and different options available to you as well. And this is all going to be possible thanks to our friends at the Finsweet Design Agency. Now, if you're not familiar, they basically have this great library of code, and you put a link in your Webflow project to their big scary code library, and then you just add a few little attribute hooks throughout your project, and that allows your project to talk to the big library of code behind the scenes and allow all these cool features to happen within your project natively. Really powerful, and I've done a bunch of other videos on them, but today we're using the Load More attribute. And as you might have seen, the video is going to be E.T. themed. E.T., fantastic movie, came out 40 years ago. I actually got to see the re-release in the theaters. I saw it in IMAX a few days ago. So great, still hits home. Such great visuals, the 80s nostalgia, the John Williams score. I still teared up, it was great. So let's go on an adventure together and look at some more attributes. All right, so here's the page in its beginning state here. I've got simple graphics and a title, and I've got this nice collection list in a grid format with just the different actor names here and some of the different characters and crew, cast and crew involved in the movie. And then I've got this text element here that we're going to target later, but it's got some blank text and then a number that we're actually going to replace later to make it dynamic that looks to the Finsweet attribute itself. So here we are also in the Finsweet Attribute Library. So each attribute is broken down and you're able to scroll through and just pick the one that you want to use. We're using the CMS load for our project. And then basically they have all the documentation for you and they go step by step. So as long as you follow these for any attribute you want to use, you should be in good shape. So we'll just start at the top here. The first step is always to get this script code. So this is the link to the actual attribute library with all of the code behind the scenes. And you're going to want to put that into the head section of the page you're working on. So I'll paste that right in there and click Save, because we're only working on this page. But keep in mind that if you wanted to have this effect apply to multiple pages or you're targeting multiple attributes everywhere, then go to the custom code in your project settings and put that tag here, because then it'll be a globally referenced tag instead and everything will have access to it. But for ours, we're just working with that one page, so we should be good to leave it right there. And then you'll see the next step is to target our collection list. So it says, I want this collection list to be the thing that's going to be sorted and filtered as we load more items beneath it. So first step, we're just going to copy this, which is the attribute name, and then its value will be list. So I'm going to go to our project, and we're going to find the collection list we want to target. This is the cast and crew grid here. And make sure you're on the collection list item itself. I'll go to the settings of that, and then we have our attributes right at the bottom here. And the value is list, just like it said in Finsweet. And there you go. Now we have a custom attribute. Again, that's in the settings of the element that you're looking at. So we're in our collection list, go to the settings, and right here, added a custom attribute and just gave it the proper names. So now it knows this is the collection list that we want to work with. So another step that is necessary for all of this is that we're going to have to enable the show page count option in Webflow. So what's great about Webflow is that it actually already has a paginate option. So if I have this big grid here with a bunch of items, it could be hundreds and hundreds of items, I could click paginate and it will paginate for me. So then it creates this next button for us right at the bottom. And you can even control some settings here. So right now it's set to 10 items per page, but what if I change that to 3? There we go. And now you'll see here, when I preview, you can use the native Webflow clicking just to do this. Super helpful, very powerful. So that's always an option. But with us, we want to have the load more that populates everything beneath this rather than the clicking and rendering new items for each section. This is necessary in order to use the Finsweet attribute. So make sure you have this paginate items enabled. So we're going to keep that on, and we're actually going to work with this that they have right here. We're going to rework the button itself. And you'll see here that when we have this enabled, it actually helps with the load times a lot. It gives you a speed boost. So what's great is it's not going to take forever to load all of the different items. This attribute even helps with all of that, so that's great. So we're not going to use the pagination. That's what I just showed you. That already works in Webflow. There's a different option here if you need it, but we're going to use the load under. So like this video shows, this will be that load more button, and it'll load everything dynamically as we scroll down. This is another attribute we're going to have to grab, and this is going to be applied to that button that we just saw. So I'm actually going to target this next link button here, and in the settings of that, I will paste that attribute, and the value will be load-under. Copy that as well. And that goes right there, and I'm just going to save that. So now attributes knows to look to this to be the trigger for the load under, and we can actually just rework this and restyle it. So I can just delete certain things, change the text block here, and I'll just go ahead and style this to make it a little bit nicer. All right, there we go. So now we've got our load button. It's a little bit more styles and fits our theme better. And we got a little hover effect. So now that's in place. So by itself, if we were to preview this, you'll see it actually has the next behavior as the pagination, because that's what we're using that button as. But secretly, because you can't view JavaScript in the preview mode, and we're using the JavaScript library from Finsweet, once we publish this, we should be able to go to our site instead. And when we click load more, rather than do the pagination effect, it's going to do our load more from Finsweet. Here we go. Technically, that's it. It's already in place. And once you get to the bottom, there's no more to load, and then that's it. So just with 2 little lines of attribute code, you now can hide the rest of your items and just have them available for when the user is ready to load the rest of them. So that's the first step. And if we want to go a little bit further and add some more things, you'll see here that there are more attributes to use, and there is a loader element that we can use as well. And this will be a loading sort of representation in any form you want, really, that will be visible while the content is being loaded. And then once all of your items are loaded, say you have a slower render time or you're in a place with a bad signal, we will have an indication that the items are loading based on the attribute that we give. So for ours, let's use a Lottie animation. I'm going to press Command K to import this new element, and I'm going to do a Lottie animation. Lotties are great. I've done other videos on them before. Feel free to check those out. But they are basically just little animations that you can incorporate into Webflow, super easy. And a great resource for these is lottiefiles.com, and they have a whole library. Just make a free account. You're even able to edit them a little bit, change the colors, make them transparent. So it's a great resource, definitely check it out. So I just found this really simple kind of loading circle here. I'm just gonna make it loop so it plays infinitely there, and you'll see that's the preview. So now that's in place. I can just make this a little smaller if I want, maybe 200 pixels. And now I'll go back to here and get the load attribute. So this is the name, and the value will be loader. So I'm just going to go to the Lottie's attributes here, add that there. Value is loader, save, and now I can publish this again. And when I refresh, you'll see for a second there is our loader, and then it disappeared. Now I have pretty good internet speed right now, so it doesn't take too long, so it's not going to linger. But if I refresh it again, you'll see it flashed again right there. And if things were slow to load, you would see that little spinner until the content was ready. But just in case that does happen, we have that ready in place. And again, it doesn't have to be an animation like this. It could be a simple image. It could be a text element. It could really be anything you want as long as you apply the attribute loader to it. All right, the next thing we're going to do is an item count here. This will show us how many total items are in our CMS altogether. So again, super easy. This is just going to be an attribute. So this is the name, and the value will be items count. Up here is where I have this little section. I'm going to make this a little bigger. It seems a little hard to see. So I've got these 2 separate text elements here, and this first one is just a little pound sign just as a placeholder. But when I put this attribute name in here, and let me just double check that name, so it's items, plural, count. And again, these names are very important. Sometimes if you miss a letter or make it plural or singular, you can mess it up, so just be careful there. There we go. So now that will apply to this target here. So it knows what the collection it's referring to is, because that first step, we added it to the collection list. So it's going to look to that list. So now when I publish this again, we'll be able to see instead of that pound sign, it's going to tell us the total number of CMS items in our collection. And you'll see how it loads as it figures them out, and that little loader was visible again. So it knows there are 15 total cast and crew beneath here. And now the next thing we can do is do a visible count. So we have the total number, but let's do one where it shows you how many are currently visible on the page. So this is the name, and visible count will be the value. So again, just like the other one, I've just got this little pound symbol here. And then this will be visible count. Save that. And now when we publish this again, check in here, and now refresh. So you'll see we've got the number increasing and it stops. 15 total cast and crew are loaded and 3 are currently visible. But when I click load more, you'll see it changes to 6. So cool. Now 9, and then it goes up to 12, and then finally we'll have 15, our total amount. So this is really helpful if you want people to know potentially how many items you have, if they're close to the end, or viewing all the products you have on display. So just a nice little guide to have there to either show the total or the visible number. Now, if you keep going down, you'll find other examples. There's also a way to display something if the collection is empty. So say you don't have anything in your collection, there's a state to put there. You can affect the reset, the threshold, animations, and we'll actually use this animation one as well. So for this one, we see here on our final one, if I refresh this again, when I click load more, they kind of just fade into place. So the default animation is a fade in, but let's say we want to change it, we can just use one of these values. So they have fade, slide up, slide down, slide right, some basic animation values there. So let's copy this attribute, and this is actually going to live on our collection list itself. So this is telling the collection list, hey, I want all your items to follow this animation behavior. So it's not going to apply to the items themselves, it'll be the actual collection list. So let's add another attribute, and yes, you can add multiple attributes to something. And then I'll click, so fade is the default, maybe let's do slide dash up. So if I do slide dash up, save that. So now it's got 2 attributes on our collection list. Publish this, and then we'll check it out live. All right, so now our page is loaded. I'm gonna click load more, and you'll see all the characters, cast and crew, will slide upwards instead of fade in. So some nice customization options there, and super easy. And that's it. You can scroll through the documentation, add advanced features if you want. They have a lot of different options within each of their attributes, but that is the CMS load. So there we go. That's how you can make a load more button for your CMS items. Great way to target a blog that has a bunch of posts that you don't want to display right away, but can have a user display them when they're ready, or shop items, or portfolio project links, whatever you want. But it's a great way to help with page load times, make the transition really easy and smooth. And if you thought this was really cool and powerful, check out Finsweet's other attributes. They've got CMS sliders, range sliders, filtering capabilities, a ton of great stuff. I've done a few other videos on those. I'll link to those somewhere and you can check them out. So I hope you learned something from this and are able to incorporate the attribute library into your project in some way. Customize it, be creative, add your own flair to it. And I look forward to going on another Webflow adventure with you guys soon. But for now, I'm gonna phone home and leave you to it.